very serious person.
Yes, very serious. বুঝাই যেতেছে।
What I've realized is যে I needed to change my attitude towards small talk a little bit, and I needed to stop trying to force it. But talk about something that you either know a lot about or you have like a lot of opinion about. You come off as very passionate, right? And তখন it humanizes you a little bit. Everyone's trying to one up the other in terms of just how loud they can be. We're like all in a circle, and I can tell this is happening, right? I would do one of two things. None of us are that great of an actor, so it হবে না. I am very proud of how I show up, and I'm proud of the person.
Welcome everyone to yet another episode of the First Gen Show with Ishti. This is episode number 4. And we are on a great run, I feel. একটু inconsistent, I know every week নতুন একটা podcast release হচ্ছে না, but we're doing it. আমরা আগাচ্ছি baby steps at a time, and today we have a very very special guest with us. Acha, every guest is special,
Of course, but I'm a little more special.
Little more special. Today we have Adiba Samantha Pervez, popularly known as Samantha. Samantha আমাদের সাথে আসছে আজকে। Samantha introduction দিব, কিন্তু তার আগে like I always do, আমি হলো যতজনই এই পডকাস্টটা ওয়াচ করে অথবা শুনে, I just want to say that I'm very very grateful to you all. যতজনই দেখে, যতটুকুই দেখে, I hope this is bringing some value to your life. But with that being said, this episode will I'm sure will bring a lot of value because Samantha has a lot to share. তার অনেক amazing একটা academic and career journey so far. আমার থেকে ছোট, কিন্তু অত ছোট না, কিন্তু আমার থেকে আরো অনেক বেশি সে জানে এবং এক্সপিরিয়েন্স করছে, and I truly believe যে this will bring a lot of value. And প্রত্যেকটা এপিসোডে যেটা বলি যে even if this helps or like positively benefits one person, that's success. So হ্যাঁ, বেশি আর কথা বলবো না because সবাই এখানে শুনতে আসছে তোমাকে, Samantha. আজকের
No pressure.
No pressure,
No
no
pressure.
pressure, absolutely no pressure.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. এই যে আমি সবাই প্রত্যেকবার বলি যে it's not an interview.
Yeah.
It's a মানে এই যে couch conversation with a good cup of coffee, some questions or things I wanted to go through. Oh yeah, this is an iPad আমার না that I stole because as always not very prepared.
I love
but
it. It's
always
organic.
ready to have a good conversation. So হ্যাঁ, or introduction ঠিক to দেই because that's one of the feedback that I got. I don't introduce my guests
Okay.
too well.
Okay.
But I think that's the fun part. বেশি
Yeah.
structured introduction দিলে মজাটা চলে যায়। So যেটা বলতেছিলাম, great academic and professional run so far, alhamdulillah. Started off with more than 10 illustrious years in Vikarnisa.
I knew you were gonna say it.
And then শাহবাগের বেস্ট বিজনেস স্কুলে 4
Let's
বছর,
go.
ওখানেই পরিচয়। And
টেকনিক্যালি ওটার একটু আগে পরিচয়, একটু আগে, and তখনও আমাকে ভিকি জোকসই বলা হয়েছে and কিচেন জোকস বলা হয়েছে, so I just wanted to be known যে it's on brand. It's on brand.
And ওইটার পরে she started her career in Unilever. Unilever ছিল মার্কেটিং এ, সেলস এন্ড মার্কেটিং,
হ্যাঁ, go to market ছিল।
go to market কাজ করার পরে you moved to the States in 2021.
Yes.
Rochester, and Rochester master's degree, 1-year master's program in marketing and analytics. I think that was a great step towards more consumer insights, ওই সব টাইপের ফিল্ডের কাজ করাতে। So এরপরে you joined Nielsen.
Yep.
ওখানে কত, 1-1.5
almost 2 years. Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years, and now working at Walmart Connect in retail media.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so as you can see, CPG industry te marketing
it's a lot of zigzag.
more than 5 years, which is great, and we are grateful to you that you decided to give us some time.
Of
And
course.
মজার একটা গল্প হবে, বাট গল্পের টপিকটা কি আজকে এটা নিয়ে একটু এই বিষয়ে একটু কথা বলি before I stop talking and we listen to the amazing things Samantha has to offer. গল্পের টপিকটা আসে, আমি কথায় কথায় সামান্থার সাথে আসে যে she evolved from being an introvert to being an introverted extrovert.
Yes. Yeah.
তাই না? এই জিনিসটা আমার খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং লাগছে বিকজ অনেক কিছু নিয়ে তো কথা বলা যায়, বাট দিস ইজ সামথিং রিয়েলি পার্সোনাল অ্যান্ড খুব মজার কিছু ইনসাইটস আমার মনে হয় আসতে পারে দ্যাট পিপল ক্যান বেনিফিট ফ্রম। সো ওয়ান্টেড টু টক অ্যাবাউট দ্যাট, যে এই ইভলভটা, এই এভলিউশনটা কীভাবে হইল, কেন হইল, what were the events or incidents or stages throughout your time in the US that made you cause those shifts. So ওগুলা আমার মনে হয় যে মানুষের কাছে জানলে ইন্টারেস্টিং হবে, বিকজ যদিও different people come here in different fields of study or work, এই জিনিসগুলো না across the board constant থাকে, যে the kind of professional মানে social settings আমরা যাচ্ছি, the kind of experiences we are having, সবাই imposter syndrome feel করে যে খুব ভালো করতেছে to whoever is not doing as they expected, তাই না? সো এটা আমার মনে হচ্ছে খুব খুব ব্রড একটা টপিক হবে, সবার খুব রিলেটেবল মনে হবে। সো decided to bring that in the first conversation we have with Samantha, because Samanthaর সাথে অনেক কিছু নিয়ে কথা বলার আছে। So the first part could be this.
Okay. No pressure.
No
but
pressure.
Okay.
No pressure. No pressure. So I just wanted to start with যে তোমার কাছে এই দুইটা ওয়ার্ডের ডেফিনেশনটা ডিফারেন্ট কিভাবে? What is who is an introvert and who is an introverted extrovert?
Okay. Before I even answer that, let me state the obvious by saying there's nothing wrong with being like an introvert or an extrovert.
Yeah.
Like obviously, people can decide to be comfortable with the personality they have. So there's no right or wrong. I think for me, growing up, I was pretty shy as a child, and I was like খুবই introverted একটা person. And I've had instances in life যেখানে I wanted to slowly become a person that was comfortable in larger settings, অথবা comfortable, let's say, being on stage, but comfortable in putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And it was very important for me to understand who I was first, because otherwise you don't know where to go from there.
Yeah.
And then decide if I want these things and my personality currently is set a certain way, can I evolve? Can I fake it till I make it? Can you morph?
Yeah.
So how I define, and I feel like I've gotten to a position now যেখানে I feel like I'm an ambivert, so like an introverted extrovert. And the reason I say that is because what it usually means is there's this dichotomy of traits that introverts have and extroverts have. So for example, I genuinely like having my own space, my own time. I like being able to decompress in ways that bring me joy, and usually that involves like solo activities. But at the same time, I love being with my friends, right? I love putting myself in situations যেখানে we are doing group activities, যেখানে, like my social battery is also getting recharged. So there's like a little bit of both, but there's just more of a balance যেখানে, unlike an extroverted person, I am not getting my energy off of social situations purely.
Right.
There's a mix, right? So I'm kind of in the middle of it. And many people are like this. I think when I started like really reading up on it, I think there's like 70% of the people in the whole world are like ambiverts, because you skew, right? Like every day you wake up and you're not set as like a singular, as the person
having.
having.
It's a personality
হ্যাঁ,
trait.
it's a spectrum.
So it's a spectrum. এখানে clearly defined lines আসলেও নাই. So makes sense যে 70% of the people in the world
are ambiverts. It's
are
crazy.
ambiverts.
Yeah. So, that's how I define it. I'm a little bit of both.
That's interesting. আর তুমি যখন বলতেছিলা যে you realized the kind of person you wanted to be uh, eventually, ওইটা required যে you push yourself out of that comfort zone and মানে introvert থেকে you become like an ambivert, right?
Yeah.
So how did that happen? মানে how did that realization happen? Was it a certain incident or sometimes when I think about myself, আমার যেটা হলো I see some people as role models, তখন
Yeah.
মনে হয় আচ্ছা এই পার্সন গুলা তো এরকম ভাবে আর লিডিং দেয়ার লাইফ অথবা মেকিং সার্টেন ডিসিশনস অর টকিং আ স্পেসিফিক ওয়ে ইন আ স্পেসিফিক ওয়ে এসব সো তোমার জন্য ওই ইনসিডেন্টটা অথবা এক্সপেরিয়েন্সটা কি ছিল দ্যাট মানে রিওয়ায়ার্ড ইউ টু থিঙ্কিং
Yeah.
দ্যাট ওয়ে
That's a good question. So to personal story time রাখুন যায়, story time. So আমি হচ্ছে I feel like this was around 8th grade or something. I genuinely am I'm a very introspective person. So like I like learning and knowing about myself. Um, and I think 9th grader দিকে আমার মনে হচ্ছিল যে I've become a very like serious rule follower of a person. বুঝছো মানে very like first bencher, সব rule শুনবো, মাথা নট করবো teachers-দের. Like I don't do that many ECAs, even though I want to, I just don't. হ্যাঁ. And I feel like ওই expectationটা ছিল from family too যে খুব studious হবো, like you need like a good job, all of that, and like ভালো grades states পাওয়া. So because I was fitting into that mold and I didn't honestly like know anything different, um, there was a point যেখানে আমার মনে হচ্ছিল যে আমি যখন স্কুল থেকে কলেজে যাব and then around that time you start thinking about কোন ইউনিভার্সিটিতে পড়বা, right? Like what do you want out of your career? Like the big questions of life you start thinking about. And আমার just মনে হচ্ছিল যে মানে am I just gonna be a person যে just অনেক পড়ালেখা করে and অনেক ভালো grades পায় and then what? মানে what else do I really enjoy doing, but what else do I want to be doing? And I was feeling kind of stuck and a little unhappy with myself because even ধরো যখন কাজিনসদের সাথে আমরা গল্প টল্প করতাম, my cousins are amazing. They have big bold personalities and they would tell me these stories of themselves in school and they would ask for stories for myself and I was like I'm পড়ালেখা করছি মানে I never bunked a class. I never did anything that was mischievous. And not to say Jay was necessary for me to do anything mischievous, but I felt like there should be more that I'm doing. And I realized it's because I really am a very shy person. But at the time, and this is so silly of me, but ধরো টিফিন ব্রেকে নিচে যে ক্যান্টিন থেকে যে খাবার আনতে হবে, that was a mental chore for me, বুঝছো? Because I was so used to and comfortable with my friend group and ওদের সাথে আমি গল্প করব যে একা যদি আমার নিচে যায় টিফিন আনতে হয়, that was like a block because what if I have to like interact with someone বা মানে একা কেমনে যায়, বুঝছো? মানে এত sheltered, but and I would always get one of my close friends to like go down with me or get her to bring me my food. Crazy. So on a random Google search, ঠিক আছে? হ্যাঁ, so অনেক দেখতে
Wait, random Google search while you were in class 9?
yeah, 9th grade, 10th
First
grade.
of all, sorry to interrupt করলাম,
Yeah.
but মানে it's fascinating to me যে class 9 এ you were thinking about these things. Personally আমি ওই টাইমে I just knew যে কালকের কোচিংটা কেমনে যাব, কতটুকু ক্লাস করব, কতটুকু সময় ফ্রেন্ডদের সাথে কাটাবো.
Yeah.
But no, that's commendable. And then
I said I was a very serious person.
you were definitely.
So I went on Google, and I don't even know if this website exists or not. I'm probably misquoting it, but there was something called To Know Myself or like something crazy along those lines. And I took like a personality quiz. সেখান থেকে I went to like 16 personalities, ওইটার যেটা the character traits, right? So I took it, and it turned out যে হ্যাঁ, like I think আমারটা ছিল, and I don't remember exactly, but I was either an INFJ or like an INTP, which the I stands for introvert basically. তারপরের গুলো হচ্ছে it's like usually intuitive, you feel rather than judge, ওইসব.
আচ্ছা, for those who are not familiar with these kind of tests, একটু personality test কি একটু বলো তো, এই টেস্ট গুলো?
হ্যাঁ, so there's a very famous test online that you can take, 16personalities.com এ। ওইখানে হচ্ছে তোমার I think 16টা obviously personalityতে মানুষকে like divide করে. You take a series of questions and they figure out where you lie in the spectrum. So it's very interesting because you understand if you lead with your emotions versus if you lead with logic, right? If you are more impulsive, like you're more intentional as a person. So it just helps you understand why you are the way that you are. And I genuinely feel like if you know yourself really well, that you can figure out how to show up for others or for yourself. So that's what the test is. There's different variants of this. I think in corporate, there's a strength finder test that people take that I've taken numerous times at this point. And again, the idea to take those tests is to just understand what your strengths are, what are your opportunities, and how do you work in different settings, right?
না তোমাকে
Yeah.
এই একটু আমরা deviate করলাম from the conversation just to highlight this because side note এই টেস্টগুলা ইউজুয়ালি এখানে আসার পরে গ্র্যাড স্কুলে ইউ আর মেড টু টেক sometimes or oftentimes in recruitment processes you are made to take or after you join a firm বলে যে নিতে so that you are again able to identify what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, or if you are a good fit for a certain firm or a certain role. So it sooner than later you can take it even if you are in Bangladesh. A lot of corporates I think in Bangladesh sometimes expose
I
you
know
to
we
these
used to
tests.
take a variant of this in Unilever.
Exactly.
So I know desho kore আর 16% is free. So তুমি এটা একাই নিতে পারবা.
So এটা নিজেকেও অ্যাসেস করার জন্য টেস্ট করা যায়.
But definitely strength finders যেটা গ্যালাপেরটা বলা, that's very common here. মানে in all two of my companies that I worked here, they had all of us take it because the team lead needs to understand how you get the most out of each person and like how to work through triggers. So ভালো stuff.
So coming back to the story, তারপর
so তখন ওটা নিয়ে তারপর আমি জানতে পারলাম যে ও আচ্ছা আমি তো একটা introvert. Like obviously জানতাম because I was a pretty shy person, but it's good to understand database এখন যে okay. And then I think the first thing I wanted to understand যেটা হচ্ছে obviously I know better now is like can introverts also be like leaders, right? Because at that point in time I was slowly trying to come to the realization of what I wanted out of my career, but what I wanted out of life. And I knew I'm probably jodi hoy tale IB te porte chai, and then after that I want to work for like a corporate, right? And my image,
you know, okay, wow,
I'm gonna,
that's amazing.
It's unnecessary pressure for yourself, so I wouldn't advise upon being so hard on yourself, but I was at the time. But তখন আমার I just wanted to know can introverts be leaders, and of course they can. There are so many amazing examples of it. And I think what I realized at the time is there are enough tools out there that you can utilize that can kind of get you out of the comfort zone a little bit, that can help you get yourself out there. And for me it was a very intentional choice because I had realized at that point I wanted to do a little bit more, right? And I wanted to expose myself to more situations যেখানে I can get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So two of the things I learned pretty early on তখন হচ্ছে একটা ছিল যে in any conversation if you sit up straight, right, তাহলে you automatically project a lot of confidence, right? And I wanted to test it out. So I remember we 9th grader time that in one of my coachings I had just started, and we were kind of মানে 3-4টা ক্লাসের মতো হয়েছিল already. And because I was like on this introspective journey, I was like test করে দেখি এটা আসলে হয় নাকি. And I remember যে সামনে বসে like sitting up really straight and like making good eye contact with the teacher there. I was gonna see does that get me a little bit more notice than before? বা আমাকে কি question করে বা আমাকে কি জিজ্ঞেস করে কিছু?
Did it?
And it did. হ্যাঁ, that's what was so surprising because তার আগে 4টা ক্লাসেও কিন্তু আমি ছিলাম. And again, I'm a very studious person, so obviously like I was taking a lot of notes and stuff, but just a change in my posture and the second thing I learned was like raising your hand to like ask a question, right? Right. Again, feels like duh, right? But when you put it to practice, you see just how much effect it has. And I saw clearly I'm getting a little bit more attention because আমার দিকে তাকায় বেশি speech, মানে whatever she's saying, সে দিচ্ছে. I'm being asked questions a little bit more. And previously, I feel like it would scare me. Like I wouldn't want to draw attention on myself. সো ধরো আমাকে কোয়েশ্চেন যে করতেছে এটা আমাকে একটু প্যারা দিত
Yeah.
but because I was trying something new
Mhm.
at that point I was like oh it's working like just minor changes in how I'm showing up is clearly helping and is helping me get a little bit more um, visibility. I hate that word but yeah um, so oita hoise and then it also got me to ask questions and I remember the other thing that I wanted to do is like this like reward system so আমি নিজেকে বলতাম যে if I ask 2 questions every week তাইলে I would reward myself with like a soda মানে কোক খাবো right and the first couple of times I did it it was because নিজেকে একটু জোর করতেছি right to put myself out there but honestly like within a couple of weeks it became more natural and jeta hoito it didn't feel forced anymore because clearly I'm enjoying the class a lot more I'm partaking in discussions a lot more and initial je nerves ta thake in like raising your hand and asking a question and wondering if it's a dumb question
Yeah.
what are other people thinking oi shob kisu ar nai so it just helped me see je just because I am an introvert doesn't mean I can't project certain things to appear a little bit differently and if you do it enough times you start morphing into that person right so তখন আর মনে হয় না যে this is like a mental block or like an exercise that I'm doing and I feel like throughout life after I did a lot of other things that helped me expose myself to new situations so for example এরপর like অনেক comic cons এ যাইতাম because again like I feel like I didn't do enough in school I was like খুবই ছিলাম so like I went on like a couple of radio shows after because of life in that area and then once I got into IB like doing a lot of business competitions grad school doing competitions doing like other stuff even though these happened much later in life I think we early example ta really helped me because I could see myself channeling a different part of my personality in a very intentional way যেটা প্রথম স্টার্টিংটা একটু কষ্ট হতো but it started to become like a natural part of who I was বুঝছো so and I realized like I was doing a lot of the things that I genuinely enjoy like thorough competitions or kotha but even as I was doing the radio shows or like the cosplay stuff it helped me channel like a different part of myself and I wanted to do them to understand যে যখন আমি একটা স্টেজে উঠতেছি লাইক বা প্রেজেন্ট করতেছি in front of a larger audience আমার কি অনেক স্টেজ ফ্রাইট হয় like do I get really nervous and if I do get really nervous do I enjoy the activity enough to want to work through that nervousness because if I do then I would rather work on it right because I'm genuinely enjoying the craft or genuinely enjoying whatever activity I'm doing and I realized I do and I don't get nervous and that's such a contradictory statement or it felt like such a contradictory statement to me right যে I was putting myself in a box যে আমি অনেক shy মানুষের সাথে কথা বলতে ভালো লাগে না বা এটা না so I shouldn't be doing X Y and Z because you assume a very extroverted person to be able to do those things and I feel like it's this exercise or doing this at such an earlier phase in my life really helped because সবকিছু with a lot of intention আমি করতে পারতাম and I could like challenge myself just go do it if you don't like it you won't do it next time right but if you don't try it the first time how will you know right so yeah that was a very long-winded answer
very fascinating because first of all the fact যে তুমি এত early age you wanted to test a few different things to really put yourself out there in order to test যে first তোমার কি আদৌ জিনিসটা ভালো লাগে নাকি না and if it does excite you তোমার আসলে লেভেলটা কি and what you need to be working on and I think that is very commendable because ওই এইজটায় not a lot of people reflect or think about life in general like that as for myself আমি ওই বয়সে I would always really go with the flow and not think about what's next in the 2, 3, 4 years so মানে এটা আসলেও commendable you should give yourself a pat on the back a big one
I am a very serious person
yes very
so
serious বুঝাই যেতেছে but thankfully এখানে এখন straight
একটু কাজে
কেউ
লাগছে
বসে নাই কিন্তু আরেকটা যেটা আমার কাছে খুবই ভালো লাগলো is the fact যে তুমি এত স্পেসিফিক একটা যেটা আমরা বলি কর্পোরেট টার্ম যে স্মার্ট গোল নিজেকে দিছো অফ যে আমি সপ্তাহে 2টা কোয়েশ্চেন করব এন্ড ইফ আই ডু আই রিওয়ার্ড মাইসেলফ। এখন যেটা তুমি মাত্র মেনশন করলা যে কোয়েশ্চেন করাটা অফেন টাইম সিমস ভেরি, এটা তো খুবই ইজি অর এটা
Yeah.
তো ন্যাচারাল অথবা এটা নিয়ে ইউ নিড ডোন্ট রিয়েলি নিড টু ওয়ার্ক অন ইট দ্যাট মাচ, কিন্তু if as you grow you'll understand like the smarter people ask good questions,
Yeah.
not necessarily give
A lot
good
of
answers,
questions. Yeah.
right na? So this is really something that needs to be worked on, because funny enough there are always a lot of people in class jara holo unnecessary questions kore, you know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are.
So we don't want to become that person. We want to ask good insightful questions that show that we are really curious.
Yeah.
Something that I personally have been really struggling and working towards. So yeah, it's a process for everyone, so aste aste shikhe, um, but it's important, like Samantha mentioned. But ওইখান থেকে I মানে the thing I want to talk to you about next is when it comes to এই যে এরকম social events অথবা gatherings, there is one thing that feels very awkward, especially to me, and that is small talk. ঠিক আছে? But it is very it is inevitable করতেই হবে, whether you are in academic setting or whether you are in a professional setting. So আমি তোমার থেকে জানতে চাই যে what's one go-to topic or question that always helps you to start a conversation and end it in a meaningful way, তাই না? So that it does not come across as you being fake or otherwise.
Yeah.
So
That's a very good question, and I'll be the first to say that I also detest small talk. When I hated it throughout most of my life, and I think what I've realized is I needed to change my attitude towards small talk a little bit, and I needed to stop trying to force it. So there are like little things that I've done to help me embrace it a little bit more, because this is something you'll have to do. Like any grad student, আসে এখানে পড়ার জন্য, throughout your career, throughout you finding a job, করতেই হবে. So
actually introverted জন্য তো আরো বেশি
it's
tough
tough.
এটা।
It's quite challenging. I think what I've realized and what I've done is I always try to make sure I'm talking about those things that feel very natural to me, and I will always bring up topics that make me feel curious, right? So I always say like lead with curiosity. Oftentimes, dhoro, it changes depending on where I am at that point in life. So I remember grad schooler time, I got very, very, very into true crime. That still continues to be something I'm very deep into. But I figured, dhoro, that's something I know so much about, and like there's so many opinions I have about it, right? And usually most people, it goes two ways. Either they're deeply invested and have a lot of opinions about it, or they're completely removed from it altogether, right? So it's a good test of like starting a conversation. I might bring up something I've read, or like a podcast I've listened to, or a movie I've watched, and if it's someone who is remotely interested in it, they will 100% engage in conversation with me, right? And if they don't, then that's fine. I can move on to like a different topic I'm really interested in, right? So for me, it's always been igula na hole something related to pop culture. So like I inhale different types of music, different types of movies. So it's much easier for me to talk about something I've watched recently, or something I've listened to recently. And I think what it does is, Jay, when you talk about something that you either know a lot about or you have like a lot of opinion about, you come off as very passionate, right? And তখন it humanizes you a little bit. So
Right.
ধরো, when you're making small talk, it also depends on the situation, but first তো you're not gonna start like talking about yourself, right? So I feel like যখন তুমি relatable কিছু নিয়ে start করতেছো, it just makes it a little bit easy for the other person to humanize you.
Right.
And ওরাও relate করবে, and chances are they're gonna get really passionate about it. You're gonna bond, and that helps you transition into whatever topic you actually wanted to talk about, whether that's like life, career, ambition, all of that. So for me, it's always been finding topics that really interest me and leaning with it. I've tried talking about like art many times. It depends on the audience, right? A lot of
Your art is
times,
great. All the art is by Samantha. by the
shameless
way.
plug. Thank you. But yeah, it depends on the audience, because a lot of times, and I feel like back home, আরো বেশি relate করতে পারতাম আমার মানুষের সাথে when I talked about painting or art. I had a lot of close friends in my circle who also were equally invested in like
Similar
art.
interest
হ্যাঁ,
ছিল।
হ্যাঁ. So it was a little bit easier. এখানে আসার পর I did notice there being like a little bit of shift in that. এখানে আমার মনে হয়েছে সবাই অনেক into like sports and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's true.
And I'm not into sports at all.
And এখানে আমার মনে হয় the range of topics
Yes.
that people are interested in is even
অনেক
wider.
varied,
অনেক
varied,
varied.
হ্যাঁ.
অনেক niche আছে that people are interested in.
Yeah.
And then there are broader categories like sports
Yeah.
that interest people.
Yeah.
But when you're responding to my question, আমার মাথায় আসলো যে one reason I also detest or hate, we can use the word, it's a strong word, but
Yeah.
I feel certain kind of hatred towards small talk is because I want to justify it, is because আমার experience I have seen এই যে তুমি যেগুলো বললা how you approach it,
Right.
I think it is more relevant when you are in the second or third conversation with that group of people. I was thinking about first conversations usually ধরো when it's a networking event, for example, and you're আমার কাছে মনে হয় the reason I hate it is because I feel it's like a platform for your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So everyone is like trying to talk about their achievements and what they have done within 30 seconds or a minute, so that they can grab the relevant person's attention.
Right.
And that becomes the whole point, and not being really curious about learning about other people and whatnot. So ওইটার কারণে আমার যেটা হয়, যেটা আমার মানে the feeling I have towards small talk is because of this. And there are often times যে এই নেটওয়ার্কিং ইভেন্টস গুলোতে সিপ সার্কেলস হয়ে যায়। for those who are not familiar, যে একটা বড় ইভেন্টে ছোট ছোট গ্রুপস হয়ে যায় where they start talking among each other. ওইখানে I have seen there are a few people who are extremely loud and trying to grab the person's interest, যে ওখানে হয়তো is representing a firm or whatever. And there are others who get very sidelined, which is usually me.
Also me.
হ্যাঁ, so ওই সিচুয়েশন গুলো how do you navigate?
That's a really good question, and honestly that happens more often than you think it would happen, right? যেখানে এরকম ছোট ছোট clicks এর মতো হয়ে যায়. I honestly have mixed feelings about it, because একদিকে I commend people who have so much confidence যে ওরা at any point in time just একটা elevator pitch দিয়ে দিতে পারছে, because that doesn't come naturally to me at all. মানে I don't think it's possible for me যে দুইটা মানুষের সাথে দুই লাইন কথা বলে I'm just gonna start pitching myself. And it takes a lot for you to learn যে just because somebody else is doing it in that way doesn't necessarily mean that's the only right way to do so. So আমার সাথে যেটা হয়েছে, like I remember back in grad school we used to have these events every Thursday that was called Keeping Simon Social. Like it's like a cases event, and it was exactly this, like a networking event where, you know, either second year MBAs who had just gotten internships or return offers, they would come and you would essentially mingle with them and try to get face time with them. And again, like I've noticed this in like networking events as well, যেখানে যেটা বললা, like a person of interest is there, everyone's kind of gravitating towards them, everyone's trying to one up the other in terms of just how loud they can be. And I very quickly realized that I was never going to be one of those people, because আমি just পারবো না, এটা একটা স্কিল সেট আমার মনে হয়, and আমার just এটা নাই. I also don't think it's necessary for every single person to have this one skill. So what I did is the first thing was নিজেকে বোঝানো যে I don't necessarily need to fit into that mold to stand out or to get that person of interest's attention. Like I don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. I also don't need to have my elevator pitch like ready to go at a moment's notice.
Right, exactly.
However, I do need to find ways to stay organic, but to like stay myself and do things that would help me get that person's attention. So আমার জন্য সেটা হয়তো usually যে I would value having a deeper like one-on-one conversation, and I would value displaying a lot of curiosity about what they've done. So ধর এরকম একটা situation if we're like all in a circle and I can tell this is happening, right? I would do one of two things. Either J person task, if there was like a little opening, I would ask them a really good question, right? Because I feel like at the end of the day, everyone wants to talk about themselves, right? সবার জ্ঞান দিতে ভালো লাগে, সবাই জিনিস like they've done things that they're very proud of and they want to share that. And more often than not, people have good advice that they want to give to other people, right? So এরকম একটা সিচুয়েশনে if I'm truly interested in the industry they're in or the role that they're in, I would rather pick their brain at that moment than try to also make it all about me and stand out from like the other 7 people in that crowd, right? So আমি usually তাকে question করব, and more often than not, and it's always not going to work, right? Because মানুষ অনেক different. But more often than not, that person would answer my question and then they would ask me a follow-up question, right? And it's very rare for me to start by talking about my career with type of situation, because I've done that and I've been on the other side, and I feel like I don't remember a lot of people who do that, but I remember faces যারা খুব passionate ভাবে describe করতে পারে what they're into, বুঝছো? So for me, I would usually talk about something that interests me about either their industry অথবা তার experience শুনে আমি খুবই organically বলবো যে I really like that you said this because I've experienced a facet similar to this in my previous life. Ọথবা I've never experienced this and I want to, right? Like tell me more. And I think it helps me weave in different sentences that help show my interest in whatever role they're in or whatever industry they're in. So that's how I usually do it. I'm also a firm believer of like quality over quantity. So এই টাইপের ইভেন্টে I'm never going to be a person যে ধরো সবার সাথে যে কথা বলে আসতে পারতেছে, right? Like everyone remembered who Samantha was. Like এটা জীবনও হবে না, জীবন আমার I can't and I don't want to. So for me it was very much if I have 2 great conversations, I consider that a very successful networking event for myself because I've had meaningful conversations. I've had solid takeaways regardless if I end up in their company or not, right? So that's just like how I've navigated, and it's also helped me shift my mindset around small talk because again, I'm talking about things that interest me, right? And it's no longer a chore that I'm doing.
I love that mindset. And again, I think তোমার way of approaching things একটা similarity আছে all across. Again, you are giving yourself a very measurable and achievable target, and then you're rewarding yourself by it's
positive acknowledgement,
positive reinforcing yourself. So I love that. So I think that's a great way to think about it. And যখন তুমি বলতেছিলা, it reminded me of one of my professors who was very accomplished, like she a professor of practice also. So he spent most of his years in the industry and then moved to final retirement years গুলা পড়াচ্ছিল. Just to give a little bit more background about that professor, she ফ্রান্সের ম্যাকডোনাল্ডস এর সিইও ছিল, ওবামা অ্যাডমিনিস্ট্রেশনে একটা অনেক হাই র্যাঙ্ক পোস্ট হোল্ড করতো. So I naturally assume that this person is very extroverted. He commands the rooms he goes into, but it was completely opposite. She আমাকে একদিন বলতেছিল how he dreads going into social events, networking events, সাইডে দাঁড়ায় থাকে, সাইডে চুপচাপ খাওয়া দাওয়া করে পারলে সবার অ্যাটেনশন মানে অ্যাভয়েড করে বের হয়ে যায়. But he, because of his title and everything, he's always pulled into speaking or becomes the center of attraction of a circle. তখন সে যেটা করে এখনো, the fact that he's 70 plus and has a wealth of knowledge to share, he told me যে আমি এখনো বিলিভ করি যে you don't have to be an extrovert to go into leadership positions. আমি এখনো the way I cope with this is by asking questions and letting the other person speak about themselves. এটাই আমার স্ট্র্যাটেজি সারা জীবন, 50+ years of corporate life এটাই করছি, letting them speak about themselves, asking follow, মানে আরেকটা পার্সনের কোয়েশ্চেন করতেই দেয় না, মানে জাস্ট মানে expressing more and more interest about their work, about their life, not just work. যদি they're comfortable sharing about their personal lives, going deep into that, asking about family, what he loves, what is their passion. So very similar তুমি যেটা বললা. So reminded me of that professor, and I love doing his class. So but just coming back to where we were, যদি আমি তোমাকে বলতাম যে Samantha, give me 3 things, like baby steps, that someone who wants to practice being social without feeling fake or being very exhausted can take. তো চিন্তা করতে পারো যে একজন মাত্র ইউএসএ অথবা বিদেশে আসছে, and they will be exposed to these events, right? And these settings, social settings. So তিনটা baby steps তাদের জন্য কি হতে পারে?
What I would say is, Jay, the first thing is you need to give yourself more grace. And I say this because packing your bags and like moving continents is a lot.
Yeah.
Dealing with so many of cultural context and changes, reinventing yourself, all of those things are challenging. They're very difficult. And if you get too fixated on trying to do or trying to be this like completely new person, or trying to go with the flow and doing what everybody else is doing,
Right.
you're going to burn out so fast. And you don't need to be that hard on yourself.
Right.
I think my first advice is to acknowledge that you've made a tough decision, to acknowledge that it's recognized that you're facing this challenge and you're navigating this challenge, right? So give yourself some grace, give yourself a pat on the back, and take it slow.
Right.
That would be my first thing.
I think আমাদের একটা natural tendency থাকে to be very hard on ourselves.
And I don't know if it's like cultural, naki key context,
cultural.
but we're very difficult on ourselves.
Yeah, we are very difficult on ourselves.
I also feel like we have this dramatized view of like other people's life through like social media. And when you see everyone thriving, everyone winning, you're like, you also need to project that you're thriving and you're winning. And at some point in time, you get in your head and you become too tough on yourself. And my first advice is just give yourself some grace.
আমি একটা ছোট একটা স্টোরি বলি. আমি যখন আমার গ্র্যাড স্কুলের, ইউএসএ তে গ্র্যাড স্কুলের ফার্স্ট সেমেস্টারে, and there was this class called policy analysis, and I took যদি কনটেক্সট দিই, আমার 100 জনের ক্লাসে 90% were domestic students, and ওই ক্লাসটাতে we would talk about naturally US domestic policies predominantly. So যেটা হইতো, যদিও আমার ওভারঅল ইউএস পলিসিস সম্পর্কে একটা ধারণা ছিল, বাট রিজিয়নাল পলিটিক্স অ্যান্ড পলিসি সম্পর্কে অতটা বেশি ছিল না. So a lot of things just আমার মাথার উপর দিয়ে যেত, and I used to question মানে আমি কি enough smart না, am I not capable of keeping up, এই সেই. তখন I asked my mentor যে মানে আমি কিছুই বুঝতেছি না, what do I do, এই সেই. তখন মেন্টর ভাইয়েরা from Bangladesh told me যে just pause and reflect, look around your classroom and just realize the fact যে তোমার ক্লাসরুমে অন্য যে মানুষগুলো আছে, the kind of obstacles you have to overcome to the position that they're in right now are completely different.
right.
বুঝছো মানে হ্যাঁ I am privileged compared to a lot of people in Bangladesh কিন্তু we have to realize যে তাও coming from Bangladesh and the type of obstacles we had to go
Yeah.
through is not the same as
No, of
them.
course not.
So এটা realize করা and নিজেকে গ্রেস দেওয়া যেটা
হুম
তুমি
হুম
বললা is very important.
হ্যাঁ, I agree. And I feel like এইসব থেকে you have imposter syndrome, right? মানে
Right.
I've definitely walked in many rooms যেখানে I felt যে wait, do I deserve a seat at this table? Right. And if you let thoughts like that creep in the way,
Yeah.
you're just going to make it tougher on yourself. So I think it's extremely important to like give yourself some grace. The other two baby steps I would mention is, and these can be like a little bit more tactical. First, হচ্ছে যে, sorry, second, I guess. হচ্ছে যে choose quality over quantity. I think I alluded to this a little bit ago, but because you're, and again, personality specific, right? So like if you are a social butterfly, if you're like a very extroverted person, you might feel very recharged after talking to like 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, I don't know, right? But if you have a natural inclination to kind of find yourself like in a corner, in like a little bubble, তখন I feel like give yourself like a number that you feel good about, right? But value quality. Do you think so? Like, you know, in this event or in this space, I'm just going to talk to 2 people. I'm going to talk to 5 people. Like, I don't know your number, but figure out a number that works for you and have organic conversations with those 2 people.
Right.
Try to go into it with the mindset, যে আমি এটা করছি না because I'm supposed to, আমি করছি because I genuinely care about what this other person is doing and I want to get to know them. So তুমি যদি ওই মাইন্ড স্টেটে যাও তখন কনভারসেশন করাটা just becomes a little bit easier, right? So that would be my second advice.
It's a great advice. এই মাইন্ডসেটটা শিফট করাটা like changes everything, how you approach and how you feel about the process itself. Because if you're constantly hating the process because thinking এটা তোমার করতে হবে দেখে করতেছি,
and that's how you also start looking fake, right? Because clearly বুঝা যাচ্ছে you are not enjoying yourself. You cannot, none of us are that great of an actor, so এটা হবে না. So that's what I would say, যে quality over quantity. And then the third step I would say is really like lead with curiosity. And I know I alluded to this a little bit too, but আমার genuinely মনে হয় যে when you have a great conversation with someone, 2 people like in that same conversation, they end up feeling the same way, right? Because তুমি আরেকটা মানুষের body language, cues দেখে কিন্তু বুঝবা যে are they in it in this conversation with you নাকি তুমি নিজের সাথেই কথা বলছো technically, right? So when you genuinely talk about things that matter to you, the passion translates really well. And the other person is a lot more likely to be invested in that conversation with you. So bring up topics that interest you and try to drive that conversation. I think Amra Ibe the first year, we've heard this many times, like during interview season, especially Jay. Try to drive the conversation. Don't let the interviewer from like question 1 ask you a question, answer the question, ask you a question, answer a question. Try to bring up, but try to say something to my first couple of answers, যেটায় you're in control, so you get to navigate it, right? Or you get to take them on a journey. So that's something I practice quite a bit, like throughout my career here, throughout grad school, is anytime I'm in a social situation, যেখানে I'm having a one-on-one with someone, I'll usually ask questions, but I'll usually talk about things that pique my curiosity and that gets me excited, because that's as organic as it gets, right? And usually 9 out of 10 times the other person's going to be invested in the energy that you're bringing. So those would be my baby steps. It's more about কোন ট্রেটস গুলা তোমার মধ্যে বেশি শো আপ করতেছে এখন। আমার মধ্যে এখন I feel like there's a mix of both, which makes it very difficult to place me in a spectrum, because পুরো জিনিসটাই একটা spectrum, right? So আমার কাছে যেটা মনে হয় যে I have morphed into a person যে এখন if a person were to meet me, যে আমাকে এখন চিনে না, আগে কোনোদিন দেখে নাই, আজকে আমার সাথে ফার্স্ট কথা বলছে, they would think I'm an extrovert. Because the way I'm showing up right now is ভালো, মানে নর্মালি আমি কথাবার্তা বলতে পারছি, social situations I'm very comfortable, I don't think too hard about what I'm going to say or how I'm going to say things anymore. I feel pretty naturally comfortable in those situations. And যে mental gymnastics গুলোর কথা বললাম আমি আগে, ওগুলো এখন আমার করতে হয় না. It's coming natural, right?
Exactly.
কিন্তু
আমি কিন্তু তোমাকে থার্ড পারসন ভিউ থেকে দেখলে
হ্যাঁ,
I would consider you as an extrovert.
right. With like certain traits of introverts, because I really do feel like I value my solo times a lot. কিছু আমার যেটা বললাম, like my husband for example, he can talk to 20 people, not tire, and go meet 10 people right after, right? He'll be more energized after. For me, I'll go talk to those 20 people, I'll have a great time, ঠিক আছে, একটুও ফোর্সড হবে না, বাট তারপর তুমি যদি আমাকে বলো যে সামান্থা তুমি কি তারপর আবার বের হবা, আমি আর বের হব না. I need to go home, I need to decompress, and then I can go do it again. So I still have some of those traits that introverts do, but I definitely feel like অনেক morph করছি আমি to like the other spectrum. And a lot of it was very intentional. বাকিটা I think just হয়ে গেছে organically. Yeah.
So, Samantha, going back to the question that
Yes.
I had, সেটা ছিল যে now that you have spent
Yes.
3+ years in corporate here, এখন how do you decide when to push yourself to speak up versus when to stay quiet? এই assessment or judgment তুমি কিভাবে করো? এখানে you have certain goals, তাই না?
Yeah.
You want to climb the corporate ladder, and then again on the other side you want to be respectful of other people in different kinds of situations. So how do you assess when to speak up versus when to stay quiet?
That's a very good question, and I think that's something you continue to learn as you go through your career. I feel like I'm still pretty early on, so আরো অনেক জানার শেখার বাদ আছে. What I do is I will never insert myself in conversations যেখানে আমার মনে হচ্ছে it's not adding value. So let's say we're all in a group and a team lead is saying something, right? আমার কখনো মনে হয় না যে আমার প্যারেট করতে হবে what she just says because like I need brownie points, অথবা যাতে ও মনে রাখে যে আমি কিন্তু pay attention করছি ওকে, বুঝছো? So if I feel like I have a thought that's nagging on the back of my head যেটা আমার এখন বলতেই হবে, it adds value, I am 9 out of 10 times going to say it, right? যদি আমার মনে হয় যে জাস্ট কথা বলার জন্য আমি কথা বলতেছি, আমি আসলে ওটা বলবো না. So I think I assess it by thinking, if I have a thought, I will first try to understand if A, this is the right forum to say it,
Right.
and B, does this like really add value? বুঝছো? So তখন আমি বলবো. And this has happened, and I'm not going to be perfect all the time, right? এরকম অনেক সিচুয়েশনে
That's the
হয়েছে.
mental framework that you're using.
Yes. এরকম অনেক সিচুয়েশন হয়েছে when we're like doing like a presentation with like a VP or something, and তোমার স্টেকহোল্ডারটাও জানতে হবে, right? And অনেক সময় আমার এরকম মনে হয়েছে যে I had like a really good idea and I should have just said it and I didn't, right? Because either আমার মাথায় ছিল oh it's a VP, right? Or like it's somebody, but then 2 সেকেন্ড পরে কিন্তু আমি শুনছি somebody else say the same thing I was thinking
It's
about.
the story of my life.
তাই না? যে কি বলতাম কি হইতো, বললেই তো হইতো.
হ্যাঁ।
অ্যান্ড এরকমও হয়েছে পুরো উল্টা সিচুয়েশনটা যেখানে কিছু একটা আমি বলছি কিন্তু আই কাট সামওয়ান অফ, মানে ইন্টারাপ্ট করে আমি একটা জিনিস বলে ফেলছি কিন্তু খুব একটা জাতের কোনো কথা বলি নাই আমি. হ্যাঁ, সো ইটস আ ট্রায়াল অ্যান্ড এরার, ইউ আর নেভার গোয়িং টু বি পারফেক্ট. কিন্তু আমি নিজেকে এখন বলি যে ইফ আই ফিল ভেরি স্ট্রংলি অ্যাবাউট অ্যান আইডিয়া অ্যান্ড অবভিয়াসলি ইফ দেয়ার্স লাইক স্পেস টু সে ইট, বলে দিই. কারণ ওই রিগ্রেটটা আদারওয়াইজ আমার অনেক বেশি হয়, বুঝছো, যে স্মার্ট একটা কথা আমার মাথায় আসছিল বললাম না আমি, বুঝছো. সো আইড রাদার টেক মাই শট, রাইট? সো এখন আই থিঙ্ক আমি একটু বেটার অ্যাসেস করতে পারি যে বলি. অ্যান্ড আই থিঙ্ক এটা যেটা হয় ইট কামস উইথ এক্সপিরিয়েন্স, রাইট? বিকজ ওয়েন আই ফার্স্ট স্টার্ট ইন মাই ক্যারিয়ার হিয়ার, যেটা বললা, বাংলাদেশে আই ওয়াজ আ লট মোর কমফর্টেবল সিইং দ্যাট ভিশন ফর মাই সেলফ, বুঝছো? মানে আমি আই ফিল লাইক আই হ্যাড অ্যান আইডিয়া যে নেক্সট এটা করলে this is how I can go forward, right? Also, I was born, brought up, grew up in Bangladesh. Like, I know cultural contexts because I've lived through it, right? We've gone through...
Comfortable to know.
হ্যাঁ. এখানে যখন ফার্স্ট আসতেছো, ওই like a couple of months of grad school and then your first job, you don't necessarily feel like you know enough to voice the thoughts in your head. সো তখন না আমার মনে হয় যে ইট ওয়াজ হার্ডার ফর মি ইফ আই হ্যাড আ থট ইফ আই হ্যাড আ কোয়েশ্চেন টু সে ইট অ্যান্ড তখন হয়তো আমি টাইম করতে পারতাম না বেটার নাও দ্যাট আইভ স্পেন্ড almost 4 years right here, I feel like I've built enough credibility externally যেখানে যে টেবিলে আমি কোনো কনভারসেশন বলতেছি things I'm saying has value and I can see it when I see other people's reaction to what I'm saying. তার থেকেও ইম্পর্টেন্ট ইন্টারনালি আই থিঙ্ক আমি নিজেকে এখন এনাফ গ্রেস দিছি টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড যে stop having imposter syndrome. There's a reason you're here, right? Like stop doubting yourself so much. So because of that, এখন it comes আরেকটু naturally for me to intervene, to have opinions, to have loud opinions. And I think, again, the more we progress in our careers, the more of that equity you'll build and আরেকটু বেশি বলতে পারবা. But for now, a good measure is if it doesn't feel like it's adding value, maybe don't say it. If it does, say it.
That's a great advice.
Yeah.
And would you say, I know তুমি Nielsen ছিলা and you work fully remotely versus এখন Walmart Connected where you work kind of in a hybrid situation but mostly in person.
Mostly in person, 3 out of 5 days.
এই চেঞ্জটা কি has that helped you?
100%, 100%, because I genuinely feel like যখন রিমোট করবা অনেক এক্সট্রা কিছু জিনিস করা লাগে ইউ হ্যাভ টু বি ভেরি ভেরি ইন্টেনশনাল অ্যাবাউট দ্য রিলেশনশিপস দ্যাট ইউর বিল্ডিং বিকজ ইউ আর টাইড টু ইউর ফ্রেমওয়ার্ক মিটিংস রাইট যে তোমার একটা টাউন হল হবে একটা উইকলি মিটিং হবে একটা ওয়ান হবে একটা টিম লিড একটা স্কিপ লেভেল and like maybe a person you really like তার সাথে একটা one off touch base হবে but you're tied to those 30-minute gaps right and then quarter-এ আমরা একবার team outing করতাম তখন 4 দিন we would spend together but those 4 days I got to learn more about other people and connect with people than I ever could have যখন আমি remote কাজ করছিলাম whereas when I came to Walmart I feel like again the transition was so tough for me because 2 বছর রিমোট ছিলাম Unilever থাকতে কোভিড ছিল I was remote for like most of my time there grad school I was remote for like a little bit so the transition was like massive for me but once I got through that hurdle I feel like in-person relationship buildingটার সাথে আর কোনো কিছুর তুলনা হয় না বুঝছো because you can easily pop to somebody else's desk and strike up a conversation and you get to know who that person is right not just like oh এই personটা এই কাজটা করতেছে so I definitely feel like অনেক change হয়েছে and I genuinely try like most of my meetings even if it's like a work from home day যদি I know the other stakeholder is going to be in person I'm going to try to go in the office because FaceTime যেটা হবে in person ওইটা স্ক্রিনে এত ভালো করে আসলে ট্রান্সলেট করে না বুঝছো even like মিটিংটা শেষ তোমরা walk back করবা to your desk you're probably talking about like normal stuff তখন right so yeah definitely see a lot of change in the two
and in addition to that তুমি যে পয়েন্টগুলো বলছো 100% agreed আমিও কর্পোরেট আমেরিকায় যতটুকু সময় কাটাইছি ইট হ্যাজ বিন ফুল মানে অল রিমোট সো again 100% agree and ওইটা বাদে আমার কাছে যেটা সবচেয়ে ইম্পর্টেন্ট মনে হয়েছে ইজ লাইক অনেকে বলে না যে ইউ আর মোর প্রোডাক্টিভ ওয়েন ইউ আর ফুললি রিমোট বিকজ আগের কথা হচ্ছে না পার্টলি এগ্রি বাট ডিসএগ্রি অন দ্য ফ্যাক্ট যে প্রোডাক্টিভিটি আবার কাট হচ্ছে by the fact যে what could have been just a pat on the back and asking someone ভাই এটা কেমনে করব অথবা এটা আমারে দেন
তার ক্যালেন্ডার চেক করে টাইম বাইর করো ব্লক করো
texting them or emailing them or just wasting mental energy and time on doing things that can be just walking to someone's desk and asking them for help
also তুমি যে আজাইরা করার কথা বললা না এই আজাইরা কথাটা যে কত ইম্পর্টেন্ট এটা you don't recognize it till you're like doing it because আমারও ফার্স্ট টাইম হয়তো যে মানে ডিপ ওয়ার্ক করতে পারতাম বাসায় I got so much more done because like I was at home
enjoy the hybrid
I agree but I definitely feel like এই যে small talks and like these random আজাইরা কথাs মানে অনেক helpful because it just humanizes everyone and they stop looking like their titles and start like appearing as like human beings so very important
and আরেকজন আমাকে খুব একটা ভালো কথা বলছিল when it comes to সে বলছিল যখন সুযোগ পাবা মানে যদি হাইব্রিড কোনো একটা কালচারে যাও try to go in as many times as conveniently possible for
Right.
you. For example, you are in organization A and you interact or have touch points with 10 people.
Right.
At one point, these 10 people might go into 10 different
Yes.
organizations, or you yourself might move. So it is important to build a connection beyond only your work streams, to know the person, so that you are not just and it's just not transactional, but you're building a relationship that you can leverage going forward. Again, transactional mone hoite pare, but really not. It's like broadening your network, getting to know more people, having connections in different organizations eventually.
Yeah.
So I think এটা remote work at time করাটা is very
It's
difficult.
tough, huh?
And again, you are missing on the socializing part, getting to know the person and whatnot.
I will say though, it's not tough, and like just to add to this, the thing I said about like valuing quality over quantity, এটাই অনেক matter করে, because I feel like যখন তুমি ওই one-on-one conversations গুলো করবা, and even if you're like remote, but তুমি যদি একটু intentional হও, again একটু প্যারা হবে as opposed to being in like a hybrid or an in-person work, but intentional হয়ে যদি calendar block করে, if you make it a habit to like have like a recurring chat with them, and when you're doing it with people you genuinely bond with, অথবা you value, whether that's professionally or like personally, ওই conversations গুলো না become meaningful enough that even when you leave the company, those relationships stay the same. And I've seen this reflect in my career so well, and granted on a short career আমার, but still, Nielsen, for example, there were 3 people in 3 different levels. একজন ধরো আমার লেভেলে, one was a VP, one was a group director, মানে entirely different. দুইজন আমার টিমে ছিল, একজন was a completely different team, মানে ওই ভিপিটার সাথে আমার 2 বার দেখা হয়েছে in like quarterly connects. But we had such great long conversations যে when I came back, ধরো back Rochester, Virginia, wherever I was living at the time, I continued to meet with them quarterly. And আমি Nielsen যখন ছেড়ে দিলাম and they left, when I joined Walmart, even now I have like a recurring with them. বুঝছো? With all 3 of these people. And again, I could have possibly, প্রত্যেক quarterly তো যাইতাম, right? Work visits. And I could have possibly met 50 people. I could have possibly had 1,000 different conversations, right? Kintu, I don't know if those conversations or those personalities would stay with me. But because I focused on like a few people that I actually liked or wanted to learn from, I feel like even now we have such strong friendships. And oitai hoy, they are all in different companies now doing vastly different things. But I know if I ever need advice, whether that's in my current role or pivoting to something else, I know that we've built enough there যে I can ask for advice, and ওরা আমাকে enough চিনে যে আমাকে correct advice দিতে পারবে, বুঝছো? So yeah, really value that.
ওটা তো invaluable, না যে people in মানে having these connections in different fields and areas of interest, because এখন হয়তো you're interested in a certain field, but that might evolve
100%.
As you grow in your current
And
role
their fields
organization.
might evolve.
Exactly,
Right, huh?
exactly. So no, that's absolutely something that one should be really mindful about and go about accordingly. So no, thanks again
Of
for
course.
sharing. No, I think we spoke about a lot of good stuff, and শুরুতে I mentioned যে this is not the only conversation we'll have with Samantha.
Excited to be back.
I think this is just a drop.
Oh,
Clearly বলে in the entire ocean.
in the ocean, ওরে
The
বাবা.
ocean of Samantha's knowledge and wisdom. So আজকে আমরা
All the
just
comments are going to be like, এত ডা কথাবার্তা বলছে মেয়েটা. And I'm going to make those comments.
Exactly. She thinks in a group of 300 followers there will be a lot of comments.
There will be. You know what? I'm actually so happy যে podcast 4 বলছো এটা, right? I'm so happy I made it প্রথম 5টা episode, because like when this takes off I'm going to be like, remember the good old days when we shot on your phone? অনেক ভালো লাগবে.
না আসলে I think these are the moments we reflect back. And না jokes aside, যেটা বললাম, it's absolutely not a joke. I think you have a lot to share.
Appreciate it.
আমি যখন when I was talking to you about what we should be talking about, I thought talking about personality and how that impacts the social interactions you have once you're here, and vice versa, যে social interaction গুলো আবার personality কিভাবে impact করে.
Right.
This is an interesting topic to have, and having দেখো একদম গ্রাউন্ড ব্রেকিং আইডিয়া কিন্তু কেউই দিতে পারবে না, বাট আই থিঙ্ক দের ইজ ভ্যালু ফ্রম সামওয়ান, মানে ফ্রম there is value in listening to those insights and advice from someone that the audience or my desired audience,
Right.
jara holo prospective people coming into the US or people who are just here, there is value for them in this. You're learning from a person who has very recently
Gone through this.
a similar experience and kind of can share the do's and don'ts.
Right.
তাই না? These are obvious when you see them on a piece of paper, but when it comes to someone who is walking the same roads, it becomes extremely valuable. That's how I think about this. ঠিক আছে? So when it comes to this personality type thing, তাই না? Do you see yourself evolving or continuing to evolve in this direction, in this spectrum, or are you comfortable with where you are right now?
That's a hard question. I want to say like I'm finally at a point in my life যেখানে I am very proud of how I show up, and I'm proud of the person that I am right now, personality wise. Not that I had a bad personality before, but I think the things that I wanted to work on.
Wait, আমি at least clear করি.
Yes.
Personality বলতে কিন্তু আমি just এই
হ্যাঁ,
specific
the
trait
introversion,
of the
yes.
personality. ঠিক
Yes,
আছে?
yes.
আমি বলতেছি না পুরো personality বদলাইতে হবে।
না এটা হইলে তো টাফ হইতো, বাট ওইটার কথাই বলছিলাম যে I feel like I've gotten to a point where I'm very proud of এই চেঞ্জটা, এই শিফটটা, because it was so intentional, and মানে the starting of it was extremely intentional, and then throughout moving continents, going through so much throughout life, জিনিসটা এমনভাবে এখন মর্ফ করছে যে I don't feel like I'm trying anymore. বুঝছো, I feel like এই introverted extrovert যে হইলাম এখন আমি, বা স্পেকট্রামের এখানে যে আমি পড়ি, I'm pretty like happy with it. So I don't necessarily see myself evolving in a way যেখানে I am intending for it to happen. So I think যদি আরো চেঞ্জ হয়, I can swing back. Like I can end up becoming like an introvert again. I can become a fully extrovert again. I think I would be fine with it. But আমার মনে হয় intentionally জিনিসটা এখন হবে না। বাকিটা যাই হবে এটা একটু organically হবে। আর যদি না হয়, that's fine too, because I'm very happy. And I can say this because ধরো there have been many instances যেখানে I've found myself in situations যেখানে ধরো office context, say let's say অনেকগুলা মানুষ আছে, none of them obviously like look like me, speak like me, have any reference to who I am, and আগে আমার জন্য অনেক টাফ হইতো to talk about my experiences, বুঝছো, বা talk about challenges that I know are very unique to who I am. এখন খুব অর্গ্যানিকলি আমি বলতে পারি, বুঝছো, আমাকে আর বদার করে না খুব একটা, বা ওই যেটা আমি বলছিলাম না যে একটা থট মাথায় আসলো, আগে আমি অনেক চিন্তা করতাম যেটা কি বলবো কি বলবো না, বলবো কি বলবো না, এখন আমি বলে দিই. সো আই এম ভেরি প্রাউড যে এখন there's less thought, like my brain can like relax a little bit এইসব জিনিস দিয়ে, and just focus on fully immersing myself in conversations and being very present. So I feel like I'm very happy with where I am. Bakita, I don't know, human beings change so much, so it's very hard to gauge কি হবে সামনে. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And again, thanks Samantha for taking the time again to sit in conversation with me. আমি নিজেও অনেক কিছু শিখলাম, and I hope যারা দেখতেছে they'll be able to learn as well. Hope so. But আর একটা কোয়েশ্চেন আছে,
বলে ফেলো.
something I wanted to start
Okay.
for every episode.
Okay.
Ending with the same question to my guests.
Okay.
Starting with Adiba Samantha Pervez, যে আমার guinea pig
Hey.
for this question.
Okay, ask away.
হ্যাঁ, কোয়েশ্চেনটা হলো পডকাস্টের নাম দ্য ফার্স্ট জেন শো। সো যেটা জিজ্ঞেস করতে যাচ্ছিলাম, হোয়াট আর ইউ ফার্স্ট অ্যাট ফ্রম ইউর
ওরে বাবা।
ফ্যামিলি? যেরকম আই এম দ্য ফার্স্ট ওয়ান টু কাম টু দ্য ইউএস টু পারসিউ হায়ার এডুকেশন। আই এম দ্য ফার্স্ট ওয়ান টু এভার ওয়ার্ক ইন কর্পোরেট আমেরিকা। এরকম অনেক ফার্স্ট আছে
রাইট,
আমার,
হ্যাঁ,
ঠিক আছে, ফর মাই ফ্যামিলি। তোমার ফার্স্ট কি? মানে অনেক ফার্স্টই তো হতে পারে, which are the ones you would love to mention and which are you proud of?
চিন্তা করতে হবে। আই থিঙ্ক দ্য ওয়ান দ্যাটস কামিং মোর ন্যাচারালি ইজ যে
Naturally যেটা আসে।
হ্যাঁ, মানে ফার্স্ট থট আসতেছে হচ্ছে যে আই থিঙ্ক আই এম দ্য ফার্স্ট পার্সন টু start grad school in my family, like immediate family te. I'm trying to think of like a fupi or a chacha that has done it, especially USA. I feel like I'm the first one to do it. Definitely am the first person to man. But একটা আমি জানি because আমার এটা মাত্র মাথায় আসলো as I was thinking, এটা হচ্ছে I was the first person to leave my very comfortable home in Dhaka and go for a sales stint. So I was the first person they had their own like apartment. I was in Saidpur. I was there for almost a year and
That's so
navigate all of the challenges that come with being a female leader leading 250 or so men. And it was difficult for my father especially because I don't think সে অনেক দিনই নিতে পারে না এই ব্যাপারটা যে I would continue to be there, continue to enjoy all of the learnings that I was learning while I was there. And আমার ফ্যামিলিতে no one had done it. Everyone was like ভালোই sheltered, নিজেরা but yeah, I did it. I loved it and I think I'm a better person for it. So I think first there.
First time asking this question, and what a powerful response.
ওরে বাবা, লজ্জা
I'm proud
লাগে।
of myself that I came up with this question to ask to every guest.
No, it's
apologies to the first 3 guests who weren't able to answer, but don't worry.
Leave your
Part 2,
answers in
3,
the
4
comments.
সবার সাথেই হবে।
Nice.
ঠিক আছে, so এগুলা হবে। But with that, thank you so much, Samantha. Again, apologies to the audiences because again I know অনেকেই কমপ্লেইন করবে আমার ভয়েস শুনতে পারতেছে না because the mic is on her side, but rightly so কারণ ওর কথাই is more valuable than mine. So but hopefully soon inshallah that problem will be solved. But let's all give a very big round of applause virtually for our 4th guest of the episode, the amazing Adiba Samantha Pervez.
Thank you for having me.
Without her permission, I give you the permission to reach out to her on LinkedIn if you need anything.
No, please do.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for
great.
having me. Yay.